Hello everyone, this is Angela Robinson from UAT Game Programming, um, Game Engine Programming class for summer of 2019. And I am here to talk about our Milestone 4, which has quite a lot of stuff going on. We did loot from the enemies, doing a game manager singleton, some more UI canvas and UI manager, and loading new levels and setting up our game over. So I'm going to start this a little bit real quick here. As you can see, I'm starting on a start menu level. I just have a splash screen with a play and a quit. If I hit quit, it will actually quit. I've got it set to do that in editor as well. I'll show that in a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and hit play here and hit play, and it starts up my scene, my main menu, or main scene here. So and let's take a look at all of this here. I still got my health bar here that is up top. I've got my enemies here that's following me and shooting at me, and I can take damage. I've got right below it my lives here, and then below my lives is the gun that I'm actually carrying right now. It's showing me I've got my shotgun that I'm carrying, and here is my rifle. Oh, I didn't get quite to my rifle, but as you can see, I died. I am respawning, and hopefully I've got enough time here on I just realized that, so I should be spawning here any second. There we go. So, and then my time ran off for my game. So I had a timer. If you didn't see that there, I had a score up here. But after the timer, I can just put my name in and hit OK, and it shows my score and the top scores. And then I can quit. Comes back to the main menu again. So if I hit play again, let's go a little bit longer here. Okay, so let's play this again. Okay, so so I want to show you the score a little bit, but as you can see, there's my rifle and then my shotgun. So let's see if I can gain some scores. I've got 1 point going for each enemy that dies, and I did a new pickup that actually adds to your score. That's what you saw there is a plus 25. I got a plus 25, a plus 50, and a plus 100 that has a chance to drop. So yeah, and I believe this also kind of shows everything that from our first 3 milestones as well. So I'm just kind of doing crazy stuff here. So and there we go. Okay. So let me adjust something real quick so that we can show you. One of our new things here was you know, the game ending after the lives are at 0. So let me change that here to my game manager, and the game timer, I currently have it at 1 minute. I'm going to set it pretty high so that we can see what happens. Let's do 10 minutes. Okay. See if I can die 3 times, because I've got my life set for 3 times. So I'm just going to really not do too much about, you know, my enemies to kill them. Let's see. can get in this little corner here where they're in a spot where they're really hitting me. It'll be good. Yep, they're not hitting me too much. So I do apologize. There we go. So there's, okay. So I want to show you here in a few seconds. I am going to be respawning as I just went despawned there, and my respawn is going to be here and there. Okay, so I respawned. It's following me again. Okay, I have 2 lives left now instead of 3, so that's good. Now, just for the purposes of this, I am going to cheat a little bit and see, find my player, put her health to 0 and kill her, and should respawn with only 1 life left. Yep, I've got 1 life left now. So, got all of these enemies here trying to shoot at me. Trying. Okay, there we go. They're starting to. There. Just trying to get them to shoot at me a little bit and kill me. But, see if I can get some pickups to damage me, actually, because I do have some pickups that damage. And just seems like a lot of the, alright. Again, for purposes, let's see. Hit 0. Now, of course, it's going to show this, and it's not going to do probably end game until I try to respawn. Nope. Oh, I found a bug. I do apologize for that. So I will have to fix that. Probably do an update on that. Update video. So let's go to, I already showed you the weapon display and the game pausing. I had a pause before, but it was just bringing up this window. It wasn't actually doing time scale pause, but I can do pause, resume, and quit as well. So, and then as you saw, also my enemies had some drops. So let's take a look at the code a little bit. So first things first here is the game manager, my singleton. I did make it a singleton here where I've got an instance, and I've also got static variables here of the player and whether or not it's paused. And I've got Unity events here too that will invoke, that I invoke explicitly during certain times. So, and then I've got the player prefab that is being held for, it will respawn that prefab whenever I die, and how long I want it to respawn. So take a look at the game manager here. It's like I've got in some of these I've got zero amounts. I do have setting defaults in the awake here. I also have a game timer. So in the inspector, I've got a tooltip here for them to put the designers to put the game time in minutes, and then I will I figure out how many minutes, seconds, and milliseconds that game time is and count down from that. This is player scores. I have this serialized right now just so that we can see in the inspector whenever I play. It's right here that it does pull from the player prefs. So as you can see, I've got top five here, and that it is pulling, and you'll see that code here in a minute. And then I've got the lives here property and the score property, and then this is just a property to that my UI controller or manager can call on to get the minutes and the seconds. So that actually is getting the information from here and putting it into the UI controller. That's what my UI controller calls. But here's all my defaults here. So if the designers or don't actually put information into the inspector, these are my defaults. Max lives 3, respawn time is 10 seconds, and game time max would be default would be 3 minutes. So and then this right here is the player prefs getting scores. So let's go to that here. So I am adding the scores to that scores list that I had up there. I also have another, two overridden methods here that you can use. Either if you already have a player score pref, you can add it straight to this, or you can add the string and the score. And that's what I'm using is that second one, the string and the score here. So, and then whenever the game ends and I hit quit, it's actually saving these scores to the player prefs. And player prefs usually is just one string at another. So how I'm doing this to do into a list is, as you can see, I'm looping through the list, and then for the key I'm actually utilizing the index number to be able to put them into the correct index of the list. Here's my timer. I am looking at checking to see if the milliseconds is 0, then we reset it to 0, and or below 0 it resets to the highest milliseconds and of 100, and also sets the for each second, if the seconds are at 0, resets it to 59, and then takes down the minutes. So and then what I'm doing is actually updating the milliseconds, but in my game I'm only showing the minutes and seconds. If the minutes and seconds gets to 0, that's when the game ends, and I am invoking the end game, and I'm also pausing the game, so that I'm pausing the time, that delta time stuff. On the death here, so I've got when the player dies and the current lives is above 0, it will actually invoke the spawn player for the respawn time, which is default by 10 seconds. It will take 1 away from the lives. So and then here is the spawning of the player that it actually is invoking, and I am picking a random number of the player spawns array or list that I had uh, up at the top. Right now I've only got one spawn point set up, but I've also got it dynamic so that if the designers want to put more spawn points in, they can. All they got to do is just add to the list. And that's why I've got it this way. And then here's the pause game. I am actually invoking my pause event, putting the bool as true for the game being paused, and setting the time scale to 0. Now, what this bool is for is more for like the timer. And see, here's the unpause, like with the pause menu. When I hit resume, it's going to unpause it as well. So, like you may have seen up here in my update, if paused, don't do. If not paused, do the timer. If paused, do it. One of the other ones that I found that I needed that on was my pickups because I have a rotation on it. So I'm doing a check to see if the game manager is paused. And if so, then just exiting out of my update. So I did do that on the pickup, and I believe it's also on the enemy. Yes, the enemy stops moving, and the same thing on the players. The player stops moving as well. Should, but I at least have it on the enemy and the pickups. So there it is. This actually is the character controller, which is what the player comes or inherits off of. Okay, so what other things I have in the game manager here? This is, let's see, timer. Okay, so here is, I've got the update score method. It just updates the score, the main player score, and I have it to where you can either it defaults to adding just 1 to your score if you just call the update score. So like if I were to do find all references here for that, and it's being quite slow, there we go. I've got 1 in the enemy, so the enemy, whenever I die, it defaults to 1 for the score there because I didn't actually pass an amount in. But for those new pickups that I did, and I called it an experience pickup, but it's a score pickup as well. That pickup actually has an amount to add to your score, and that is what I'm passing in. So it actually updates the score by the amount instead of just the default 1. So, and then I have a structure here, which I utilized with the player preferences, because for the player preferences I wanted both kind of like a corresponding string and int, one for the name, one for the player, one for the score. So my list up here is actually of that structure, the player score structure. And then whenever I'm setting and getting those player preferences, I'm going through that scores list of the player score. This here, I am actually sorting the score so that I can get it a descending order whenever I'm saving them. So I can get the highest one at index 0 and going down. And I'm only saving the top 5 scores. But this is sorting it, sorting that list by descending, and that's through the delegate there. So the next thing is the weighted drops. So I have the loot table. I created a loot table that I added to the enemy prefab. Um, so and this is looks like in the inspector, but Simple, just I have an inner class here that's serializable with the ID. I have not done anything with the ID, but I wanted it kind of be a variable in case, you know, developers wanted to use an ID. We could possibly, you know, randomly, um, you know, randomly um, make IDs. But primarily it's the item and the weighted chance of it. Um, and then, um, so I've got the list of that loot item, and then I've got the CDF array that the lecture talked about for the weight, calculating the weighted items. Whenever the enemy dies, I have it calling the select method here, and um, it does the binary search. So within here first, I'm calculating the CDF array. So I'm getting the array information to do the binary search against, and then I am doing the binary search against the CDF to get a random index. And if I don't find an exact match, then doing the opposite of the binary and then returning the item. So in it here, as you can see, there's two things about the loot here: is the loot table one, and the loot settings here on the enemy. So on start, or on the awake, I don't remember if it was on start or on the wake for the enemy. Let me find that. Let's see. I have a loot table list, so I'm just looking for the loot table. I have it requiring a loot table, so that is sorry, that is what that variable is, and this is the chance to drop. So I've got it set at basically 80%. If when an enemy dies, they have an 80% chance of dropping something. Instead of a 100% chance. So I'm not sure if you could tell whenever I was playing that some of the enemies weren't dropping things, but if it does fall into that 80% of dropping, it will drop a random number. Now here you'll probably see this is actually from one of our lectures. I did do an editor script item editor here, so I am doing an on GUI. So I am finding my properties since I had the idea of the ID, and since this is also an inner class instead of a regular class, I do actually have to do a custom drawer and I have to access it through the loot table class. But I am specifically only doing that inner class in the property drawer. So, and then I'm relatively getting my properties that I want to show in the inspector. And that is the item and the chance, not the ID. It is another reason why I have hide inspector there, because I had intention that the ID would just be automatically generated. And then after getting reference to those, I am starting the property drawer, and then normally I kept this, normally I would take out these comments out as cleanup, but I wanted to show you guys that this is normally what it was showing in our lectures, or even in the Unity manual of what you can do. You can just get the normal label here. This is what you usually put the normal label, where it would say element 1, element 2, element 3. So instead I have it, and I did have it, if I were to actually uncomment this out, instead of saying normal element, it would actually have the drop chance there. Instead of element 1, element 2, element 3, it actually would say drop chance. So, but I wanted to show you this here, and I am, when creating the drawers, these properties, and you want indentation, but you have to create your positions on things, you really based off of Unity tutorials, they always say clear the indentation first. Always make it 0 and then reset your indentation later. So what we're doing is we're saving the current indentation and then resetting it to 0 here. And then I am picking my widths of what I want each of these properties to be. So this width here. And the width actually includes the label. So, and then this is my position for those. And then here again, I wanted to show you this, but this is default labels, seeing of how it would be. But instead, I decided to put my own labels. So instead of element 1, element 2, I've got item. Instead of, nothing else in front of the drop, I've just got a percentage there, because that's what developers would understand, would say, oh, I put my percentage and how much of a percentage I want to put on it. So that kind of just lets them know about that. And then again, I'm resetting my indentation to the initial and ending the property. So I really enjoyed doing this and working with this, but I did want to show you that. And so I did. So I believe I kind of touched a little bit on my new mechanic, which is this right here, right in front of here, is my high scores. So whenever the scores ended, it was actually showing at the top. So I believe I've covered everything, and I hope you enjoyed.